The grease was under my fingernails, same as any other Tuesday. The smell of oil and old engines hung heavy in the air of my garage, Leo's auto fix. A smell I barely noticed anymore. It was just part of me, like the calluses on my hands. I was tightening a bolt on Mrs. Henderson's old sedan, humming a tune I couldn't quite place when I saw her. Through the wide-open bay doors, across the dusty road, at the little covered bus stop, sat a bride. Not someone dressed like a bride, for a party. A full-blown white gown, veil askew, bouquet of wilted flowers lying on the bench beside her kind of bride. My wrench clattered to the concrete floor. I just stood there staring. This was a small town. We had weddings, sure, but they usually ended with rice and a decorated car, not a lone bride at a bus stop looking like her world had just caved in. And it clearly had. Even from this distance, I could see her shoulders shaking. My first thought was, none of my business, Leo. Get back to work. But then, a little voice, the one that sounded a lot like my mama, piped up, and leave her like that? I wiped my hands on a rag, though it didn't do much good. I crossed the road, a bit awkwardly. The closer I got, the worse it looked. Her makeup was a mess of tear tracks. Her beautiful dress was smudged with dirt at the hem, and she was sobbing. Not loud, but that quiet, hopeless kind of crying that just rips your heart out. "Ma'am?" I said, my voice sounding rougher than I meant it to. Are you all right?" Stupid question. Of course she wasn't all right. She looked up, her eyes wide and red. She was young, maybe early 20s. He didn't come," she whispered, her voice cracking. "He just left me. Sent a text. A text." My gut clenched. What kind of coward does that? I don't know what to do," she choked out, fresh tears spilling. "My family, they're all at the church hall, waiting. I can't face them." My garage wasn't much, but it was better than a bus stop. "Look," I said, trying to sound gentle, "it's hot out here. Why don't you come over to my garage? I've got an office, a fan, some cold water. You can sit down, think for a minute." She hesitated, looking at my greasy overalls, then back at the empty road where a bus probably wouldn't come for another hour. Finally, she nodded, a tiny, defeated movement. I helped her up, carefully, trying not to get her dress any dirtier. She was so fragile it felt like she might break. I led her into my little office, which was really just a cluttered corner with a desk, a creaky chair, and a calendar from 3 years ago still pinned to the wall. I cleared off a stack of invoices from the other chair. "Here," I said, handing her a bottle of water from the mini-fridge. She drank it like she hadn't had water in days. For a while, she just sat there, staring at the wall. I fiddled with some paperwork, pretending I wasn't watching her, giving her space. The silence was heavy, only broken by her occasional sniffle. "My name's Clara," she said finally, her voice barely audible. "Leo," I replied. He said he couldn't do it, that he wasn't ready, an hour before the wedding." She looked down at her hands, twisting a delicate ring on her finger. "My whole life planned around this day. I didn't know what to say. I'm sorry. Felt so small, so useless. So I just listened." She talked, a little at first, then more, the words tumbling out, about the dress her mother helped her pick, the cake she'd tasted a dozen times, the honeymoon they were supposed to be on by now. The sun started to dip lower, painting the dusty garage in warmer colors. Mrs. Henderson's car was still waiting. "Do you have someone you can call?" I asked gently. "Someone who can come get you?" She shook her head. "My parents will be so disappointed. My friends, they'll pity me. I can't. I just can't." She looked up at me, her eyes pleading. Is there a motel nearby? A cheap one?" I thought about the only motel in town, the one by the highway with the flickering sign. It wasn't a place for someone whose heart was this broken, and that's when the idea came. So sudden and unexpected it almost surprised me. I live alone in a small house just behind the garage. It's nothing fancy, but it's clean. And there's a spare room since Mama passed. Look, Clara, I said, choosing my words carefully. I've got a spare room. It's not much, but it's clean and safe. You could stay there for a night or two. Get yourself together. No one needs to know. She stared at me, suspicion and surprise warring in her eyes. Why would you do that? I shrugged. My mama always said, if you can help someone, Leo, you just do it. Besides, I tried for a small smile. It's better than that bus stop. It took some convincing. She was scared, and I didn't blame her. A strange mechanic offering a room. But I think she saw something honest in my eyes, or maybe she was just too tired to argue. That evening, I made her some soup. She barely touched it. I showed her the spare room, made sure she had fresh towels. I slept on the couch in the living room just in case. Figured it would make her feel safer. The next morning, she looked a little less like a ghost. The tear tracks were gone, though. Her eyes were still sad. She'd taken off the wedding dress, folded it neatly, and was wearing a t-shirt and some sweatpants I'd found for her. Old ones of mine, way too big but clean. Thank you, Leo, she said, her voice stronger. For everything. Don't mention it, I said, pouring her coffee. What do you want to do today? And that's how it started. She stayed, not just one night or two. She stayed for a week, then another. She helped around the house, tidied up my cluttered life in small ways. She started to talk more, not just about the wedding, but about her dreams before him, the things she liked, the person she was. She had a quiet strength I hadn't seen at first. My regulars at the garage started to notice. Old man Hemlock raised an eyebrow when he saw her bringing me a sandwich for lunch one day. Got yourself some company, Leo? He'd grumbled, a twinkle in his eye. I just shrugged. What could I say? Found her at a bus stop, all dressed up for a wedding that never happened? People wouldn't understand. They'd gossip. But the thing was, I didn't care. Having Clara around, it was nice. My little house felt less empty. Her quiet presence filled a space I hadn't even realized was so vacant. We ate dinner together, sometimes watched old movies on my beat-up TV. We talked. About everything and nothing. I told her about cars, about my mama. She told me about growing up in the city, about her love for painting. One afternoon, about 3 weeks after she arrived, I found her in the spare room, sketching in an old notebook I'd given her. She was drawing my messy garage, but somehow, she made it look beautiful, full of light and character. You're really good, I said, genuinely surprised. She blushed. I haven't drawn in years. I kind of forgot I liked it. Slowly, very slowly, Clara started to heal. She called her parents. It was a hard call, I could tell from her side of the conversation, but they were relieved she was safe. She started looking for a small job in town, just something to get by. The unexpected part wasn't that I offered a stranger a place to stay. I think anyone with a decent heart might have done that, at least for a night. The unexpected part for me, for her, maybe even for the town if they knew the whole story, was what happened after. It wasn't a grand gesture. It was just life. Two people, thrown together by a rotten bit of luck, finding a quiet sort of comfort in each other's company. She eventually found a little apartment above the bakery and a part-time job helping Mrs. Gable with her flower shop. She started painting again, really painting. Her tiny apartment was soon filled with canvases bursting with color. She never went back to the man who left her. She said that day at the bus stop, as awful as it was also a strange kind of liberation, and me? Well, I still fix cars. The grease is still under my fingernails, but my little house behind the garage doesn't feel so empty anymore. Clara comes over for dinner a couple of times a week. Sometimes she brings me paintings for the garage, office. Bright, cheerful things that cover up the old calendar. People in town still talk, I'm sure. That mechanic Leo and the pretty artist girl. But they don't know the story. They don't know about the bus stop or the tears or the quiet kindness that blossomed in the middle of a broken heart. Sometimes when I see her laughing, her eyes bright, A smudge of paint on her cheek, I think back to that girl in the white dress, lost and alone. And I guess what I did next wasn't some big heroic act. I just opened a door, offered a hand. What I never expected was that in helping her find her way, I'd find a little bit more of my own, and that, I reckon, is a pretty good fix.